Hello Colonet Africa online students. Welcome to our first lesson on hydrogen and its compound. Water is the most abundant substance on Earth. Water covers about 71% of the Earth's surface. Sources of the water are seas, lakes, oceans, and rivers. Water has a diverse use, and hence its study is very important in our life. Then we're going to look at or to discuss an experiment on what products are formed whenever a candle wax is burned in air or any other hydrocarbons. So in this discussion, we are going to have a setup apparatus as shown in the figure in the next slide that we're going to look into. In that setup, we have a candle is lit and we turn on the pump, allow the candle to burn for about 15 minutes, then observe and record what happens in tube A and tube B of the setup. This is the setup, and in this setup we have our candle. This candle is lit on, and when you lit the candle, it's going to start burning. So you're going to have a flame. Remember, when you're looking at the flames, whenever you have excess air, you have a non-luminous flame. Whenever you have limited air, you have a luminous flame. So in this case, we have a non-luminous flame. And as you can see, whenever the flame, whenever the candle is burning, the candle is composed of wax. Wax is made up of hydrocarbons, that is hydrogen and carbon only. So it's a hydrocarbon compound, and whenever you burn a hydrocarbon, you obtain two products. You obtain carbon dioxide and water, and those are the only products that you obtain. So those two products are captured, or they are captured by the inverted filter funnel. That's why you have that filter funnel to capture the two products. Those two products are transported to these two tubes. In the first tube, it's surrounded by the ice cold water. So we have a basin of the ice cold water. Then in this tube, you can see a colorless liquid being formed here. It's being formed because that colorless liquid, remember when it's come here, when it's coming from the flame, it is water in gaseous form, which we normally call steam. That steam is actually condensed by this ice cold water. And once it is condensed, we obtain the colorless liquid, and that colorless liquid is water in liquid form. Then we have the other product cannot be able to condense because its boiling point is higher than that of water, and therefore it's going to be transported to the next tube. And in the next tube, we have a colorless solution, which is calcium hydroxide, and this calcium hydroxide solution we normally refer to as lime water. And this calcium hydroxide solution will absorb carbon dioxide, and it absorbs carbon dioxide. If it's the carbon dioxide is limited, you obtain a calcium hydrogen carbonate, and the calcium hydrogen carbonate will form white suspension in this solution. Once you continue bubbling carbon dioxide in the solution, you're going to find that the calcium hydrogen carbonate obtained will be transformed to calcium carbonate, which will form as a white precipitate. So you're going to form white precipitate, and that white precipitate is salt, calcium carbonate. And that calcium carbonate is used as a test, or this solution is used as a test for carbon dioxide. So it's the only gas that forms a white precipitate with calcium hydroxide solution or the lime water. Then the excess carbon dioxide is taken to a pump on an aspirator. And you know that the carbon dioxide is normally referred to as greenhouse gas. And we normally know that the greenhouse gas are very harmful to our environment because they normally lead to the global warming, and that's why it is pumped, or it is taken to a pump or an aspirator, so it cannot be taken to the air. Then Candle wax burns in air to form a colorless liquid, as we have seen in that setup, and that colorless liquid is water. Then the water is tested by two methods. The first test, we can use anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. Anhydrous copper 2 sulfate is white in color, and once it is hydrated, it turns blue. So you want to have water. If you sprinkle some water in anhydrous copper 2 sulfate, which is white in color, it actually turns blue. So if you have a liquid and you don't know what that liquid entails or contains, or you don't know the identity of that liquid, and once you pour that liquid in anhydrous copper 2 sulfate, and then it turns the white anhydrous copper 2 sulfate to blue, then automatically you know that you have water, or the identity of that liquid is water. It's the only liquid that turns the anhydrous copper 2 sulfate from white to blue. Then the next method, or the next test for water, is using cobalt chloride. The cobalt chloride, when it is not hydrated, it is blue in color. Once you have water and sprinkle on cobalt 2 chloride paper, you're going to find that that paper will change into pink. So it's the only liquid that turns cobalt 2 chloride from blue to pink. And therefore, this acts as another test for water. So you can use those two tests to identify or to get the identity of a liquid if it is water. Then those two are used for the test of water. The colorless gas carbon 4 oxide is also produced. Then this carbon 4 oxide forms a white precipitate with lime water, and that lime water is calcium hydroxide. Remember, we say that once you bubble carbon 4 oxide in calcium hydroxide solution, the calcium hydroxide solution is colorless, and you are going to obtain white precipitate. It's the only gas that gives you a white precipitate with calcium hydroxide, and that acts as a test for carbon 4 oxide. Therefore, candle wax burns to give carbon 4 oxide plus water. Candle is a compound made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms only. Therefore, it belongs to a family of hydrocarbons, because hydrocarbons are compounds that are only composed of carbon and hydrogen atoms only. Hydrocarbons are compounds that are made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms only. Other hydrocarbons include kerosene, petrol, and diesel. So once you burn kerosene, petrol, or diesel, you obtain carbon 4 oxide and water as the byproduct. Carbon and hydrogen are the major components of organic matter. Organic matter burns in air to give carbon 4 oxide and water as the product. Water is a molecular compound that is made up of hydrogen and oxygen atoms only, that exist in gaseous, liquid, and solid state. The gaseous is the steam, the liquid is the normal water that you normally use when you're drinking when you're thirsty, so it's a colorless liquid, and the solid is the ice. The solid is the ice. If you put liquid water under very low temperature, it is changed into white solid, and that white solid is the ice, and it is water in solid state. That is essential. All water, or the liquid water, is very essential to all known forms of life, because no known form of life can survive without using water. Whenever hydrogen burns in air, it forms water. Hydrocarbons compounds burns in air to give water and carbon 4 oxide. Water is the most abundant substance on the surface of the earth. About 71% of the earth's surface is covered by water. These are the sources of water. We have rainfall, rivers, wells, oceans, boreholes, lakes, snowmelts, springs, streams. And that brings us to the end of our first lesson in this topic of hydrogen and its compound. So you have the assignment to tackle on. Remember, this assignment tests on how you have assimilated the knowledge, or how you have acquired the knowledge in that lesson. There are 6 questions. Make sure that you answer all the questions. Then, and in this case, have a self-test. Self-test yourself Don't copy anything from the notes, and I wish you all the best until we meet in our next the second lesson of this topic. Bye.